trudge through the ruins, our footsteps muffled by the endless drifts of ash. The dust clings to everything, sifting into crevices, filling cracks in the broken ground and swallowing the echoes of what once was. The structures that rise around us are skeletons, barely recognizable as the remnants of the last city, the last mark of what humanity once dreamed itself to be. You walk ahead, scanning the shadows with a worn-down flashlight, its beam thin and erratic. It flickers over broken walls, shattered windows, twisted metal that once wove the lifeblood of a metropolis. They say we should leave, yet we feel something in this place. A faint, pulsing glow, deeper in the wreckage, hidden beneath the weight of oblivion. It's as we round the corner of what might have been a public square, marked now only by fractured stone, that we see them. Floating in silence, translucent shapes hover, barely visible, but unmistakably present. Jellyfish, or something resembling them, drift through the stagnant air, their ghostly forms undulating as though gliding through water that no longer exists. They move with an ethereal grace, luminous tendrils trailing in slow, hypnotic rhythms. The dim light that pulses within each one ebbs and flows like a heartbeat, a collective, synchronized rhythm that thrums in the silence, as if each breath of illumination were an attempt to reclaim something lost. It feels as if they are feeding on something intangible here, something hidden within the dust and the ruins themselves. They hover close, and we hesitate. In the unearthly glow that radiates from their forms, memories seem to flicker like broken shards. Faces we don't quite remember, sounds that feel almost familiar, sights that hint at a world no longer within our grasp. The glow they emit isn't bright, but it catches on the fragments of glass, the twisted metal, illuminating them like relics in an ancient, forgotten museum. For a moment, we feel watched, not by them, but by the echoes these creatures draw out, like memories trapped in the fabric of the world itself. They pulse, they drift, they shift in and out of the shadows, and as they float closer, a sense of calm, almost meditative, fills the empty spaces around us. There's a mystery in their movement, as if they are more than just remnants of life, more than some twisted evolution in a world stripped of reason and hope. They exist on a boundary between being and fading, a final grasp at life, perhaps, or a messenger of things we can't understand. You take a step forward, your hand reaching into that eerie glow, fingers trembling but steady. The closest of the creatures doesn't recoil. Instead, it seems to sense you, its pulse quickening for a moment, responding to the slight tremor in your hand. The glow intensifies around your fingers, and as we watch, there is something strange, a fragment, an image that might not even be our own, a flash of some past, captured like a photograph, of laughter, of movement, of voices raised in a celebration that was lost long before us. They don't seem to mind us, these jellyfish-like phantoms. They drift, enveloping us in a kind of hushed sanctuary. And as we stand there, suspended between the ghosts of this world and the silence of what's left, we can almost believe that we aren't alone. We stay still, caught in the fragile boundary where the soft, pulsing light meets the fading shadows. The glow of each creature ebbs and flows, casting long, shimmering reflections on the debris-strewn ground, illuminating broken shards, half-buried rubble, fractured things left behind. The air itself seems charged, as if infused with fragments of memories, scents and sounds, colours that we can barely grasp, yet feel intensely in some part of us that words have long abandoned. They draw nearer, these drifting spectres. And in the dim light we see more details, subtle veils in their translucent bodies, thin and delicate like paper, layered and rippling with a life that feels almost familiar. Each pulse they emit sends soft, undulating waves across their forms, as though they carry whispers, faint and wordless, in their light. It's not just that they are moving through this place, but that they seem to understand it in some way, to inhabit it beyond the simple boundaries of space and time. A breeze stirs, swirling ash into soft currents around us, and in that moment, a faint murmur reaches us. The sound is faint, intangible, like voices calling from a great distance. It isn't language, but it feels close, like the intonation of memories we haven't quite lived ourselves. The jellyfish sway in time with it, caught in a rhythm that beats just outside of our comprehension. You close your eyes just for a moment, as if to listen more closely, to let the sounds and the pulses seep into something deeper within. They watch, or at least it feels that way, their movements calm yet purposeful, responding to our breaths, to the stillness of our gaze. And somehow, standing there, we both feel as though we are touching something ancient, a truth buried within these ghosts of a broken world. A shape floats by, larger than the others, its tendrils longer, more finely woven. Its light is softer, almost silver, and as it glides past, a different set of memories stirs. We see, just for a moment, what might have been a library. Grand arches, rows upon rows of books, the kind of place we'd only heard of in fractured stories. Shelves stretching towards ceilings bathed in sunlight that no longer exists. Dust motes caught in that warm, ancient glow. But just as suddenly, the image fractures and fades. The silver one drifts away, its light dimming as it passes through a broken column, leaving behind a faint trace of warmth, quickly swept away by the cold air. It's as if it wanted to share something, yet only a piece of the memory could cross into this realm, into our hands. There are no words between us. We both feel it, the weight of this place, the ghosts that linger not only in these creatures, but in the very dust we breathe. You touch the jagged remains of a once great building beside us, your fingers tracing the rough surface, feeling for anything that might be left, anything that might speak. One of the jellyfish shifts closer, floating directly before us, and its glow is gentler, softer, as if it wants to offer some kind of comfort. Its light seeps through the cracks, casting rippling shadows that move like water against the broken stones. In its presence, the ruins feel less desolate, less empty, as though, in some way, they are all part of something greater, an unseen web that binds this fallen world together. They hover around us in silence, each pulse a whisper, a gentle lull that reaches deep into our minds, coaxing us to remember things that were never ours. We are the last to witness them, the last to stand in this place. And yet, somehow, they are not entirely of this world, as if part of them too remembers another existence, another life. In the strange stillness, the ground feels softer, the air lighter, as if everything here breathes in sync with us, even in the absence of true life. We take a step forward, and they follow, their lights leading us deeper into the ruins, into the heart of what was once the last great city. We don't know what waits there, if anything does. But in this eerie company, we move on, feeling as though we're not merely exploring ruins, but uncovering the last lingering traces of a world that never truly died. The ruins stretch on, endless and vast, crumbling structures casting long shadows over our path. But we follow the ghostly lights without hesitation. The jellyfish drift ahead, their gentle glow illuminating our way through twisted corridors, under collapsed arches, and across courtyards that have become silent graves. With each step, the city seems to breathe, deep, slow breaths, as though the memory of its former life still lingers, suspended in these spectral beings that guide us. As we move forward, we begin to notice markings on the walls, faded symbols etched into stone or painted in colors dulled by time. They are faint, nearly erased by the years, but in the soft light, we can make out shapes, a series of spirals, symbols within symbols, flowing patterns that evoke motion and fluidity, like waves frozen mid-crest. The jellyfish glide over these markings, their glow casting the symbols into sharp relief, and we feel a strange sense of recognition, as if these patterns hold stories that were meant for us, stories preserved just beyond our reach. They pause in the center of an open space, a courtyard strewn with remnants of statues that once held meaning, faces now weathered beyond recognition. The silence here is deep, layered, a silence that feels as though it holds something secret. We stand there, watching the jellyfish move in slow, rhythmic patterns, their lights flaring and dimming in some unseen harmony. You step into the center of their dance, and for a moment, it seems as if they respond, circling around you in languid movements. Their tendrils trail around you like whispers, brushing close but never quite touching. Their light intensifies, and in that glow, we see something startling. The air between you and them shimmers, rippling like the surface of water, and within that shimmer images flicker, shadows of what this place once was. We see streets full of movement, shadows of people passing, their faces blurred, their voices muted, but unmistakable in their energy. Buildings that towered high, strong and whole, bustling with life and purpose. A faint hum fills the air, a vibration that seems to resonate from the very ground beneath our feet, as if this place is trying to speak, trying to pull itself back from the void, if only for a moment. And then the shimmer shifts, and we catch glimpses of other scenes, flashes that are almost memories, but not quite. Fragments of gatherings, of hands reaching out, of people clustered around fires that burn with an otherworldly light. They are faint, fleeting, images that dissolve as soon as they come into view, leaving only the echoes of what might have been. They drift closer, and their glow deepens, casting long shadows over the broken statues, bringing a strange warmth to the air. They seem to be waiting for something, as if they've led us here for a reason. It's a feeling we can't quite describe, an instinct that pulls at us, drawing us toward the statues, the markings, the faint pulse that hums in the silence. We step forward, and the ground beneath us seems to respond, vibrating in soft, almost imperceptible waves. The jellyfish drift around us, their light sinking to the rhythm of our movements. And as we touch the stone beneath us, we feel a strange warmth radiating from it, a warmth that feels ancient, familiar, like an echo of something long past. The ground pulses, almost like a heartbeat, and as we close our eyes, we feel ourselves sinking into it, as though the memories of this place are reaching out, enfolding us. The world around us fades, the cold, the dust, the silence. All of it recedes, leaving only the soft glow of the jellyfish and the warmth of the earth beneath our hands. In the darkness behind our closed eyes, a vision forms, faint at first but growing stronger. We see an expanse of stars, vast and endless, stretching across a sky untouched by the ruin of time. Beneath that sky, a city gleams, vibrant and alive, its towers reaching high, lights twinkling in windows, streets humming with life. And within this city, the people move like rivers, flowing in currents that pulse with purpose, laughter, and voices that rise in a symphony of life. For a fleeting moment, it feels as though we are part of them, part of this world that lives only in fragments and memories. We can almost feel their emotions, their dreams, their fears. A tapestry woven from threads of lives that have passed beyond the reach of time. But then the warmth fades, the vision dissolves, and we are left once again in the hollow silence, in the presence of these silent watchers. The jellyfish float around us, their lights dimming, as though the memory they've shared has drained them, left them somehow emptier. They drift back, away from the statues, their forms flickering as if they too are fading. We open our eyes, feeling the cold settle around us once more. The vision lingers, a faint impression that clings to the edges of our minds, and we are left with a feeling that we can't quite name, a sense of having touched something vast, something beyond ourselves, something that stretches into the very fabric of the world that has fallen away. The jellyfish begin to move again, drifting toward the edges of the courtyard, leading us onward, deeper into the ruins. We follow in silence, our footsteps echoing faintly in the hollow remains, feeling as though we are walking not just through a city, but through the bones of something far greater, something that still remembers us, even as it fades into the endless night. We walk through the labyrinthine streets, the ruins around us narrowing into twisting alleys and corridors, the remnants of towering structures leaning precariously overhead. The jellyfish drift before us, their light ebbing and flowing, casting a soft spectral glow that reveals details we would otherwise miss. Intricate carvings on crumbling walls, half-shattered mosaics beneath layers of dust, fragments of a city that, even in ruin, hints at beauty. They lead us toward the heart of the city, to a place that feels older, more ancient than anything we've yet seen. It is darker here, quieter, the silence thick and reverent, like stepping into a forgotten temple. We come to what must once have been a vast hall, its ceiling collapsed, leaving a jagged opening through which the dim sky is barely visible, blank and unmoving. The jellyfish fan out, circling the edges of this space, their lights brightening as they trace the stone walls, revealing strange engravings, cryptic symbols that spiral upward, fading as they reach the broken sky. We sense that this place holds something different, something not just remembered but preserved, a piece of this world's past that has remained untouched by time's slow decay. We step into the center, feeling the weight of the silence press around us, and the jellyfish hover closer, their pulses synchronizing, as if trying to attune us to something hidden beneath the surface. The air grows heavy, almost oppressive, as though it holds the last breaths of 1,000 voices. You close your eyes, and I do the same, letting the sensation wash over us, breathing in the faint trace of something ancient, something powerful, lingering here. Slowly, as our breaths settle, a sound emerges, a faint, rhythmic thrum, almost imperceptible, pulsing through the ground beneath our feet. It is not mechanical, nor entirely natural. It feels like the heartbeat of the place itself, a slow, steady pulse that resonates through the bones of the city. Each throb is subtle but undeniable, filling the space, binding us to it, as though inviting us to remember, to see beyond the veil of dust and ruin. The jellyfish drift closer, and as their glow intensifies, we sense something beneath us, just below the cracked stone. There is a pattern there, faint but distinct, circular and complex, etched into the very foundation of this hall. The pulse from the ground aligns with the rhythm of their light, and in that alignment, something unlocks. A vision, not as fleeting as before, but whole, encompassing. The city comes alive around us, not in fragments, but fully, as though time itself has worn backward, restoring this place to its prime. Structures rise in harmony, tall and elegant, woven together by walkways that curve and spiral, crossing in intricate patterns. Colors bloom in the air, vibrant greens and deep blues, mingling with golden light that spills from towering arches and windows, painting the ground with warmth. And in the streets, people move, their faces no longer blurred but clear, each one alive with purpose and connection, each step a part of the great, unbroken rhythm of the city. We stand in awe, and in this vision, those who lived here, seem to see us, acknowledging us not as strangers but as witnesses. Their eyes carry a look of solemn understanding, as if they knew we would come, long after their world had faded, as if they left this place open, waiting for those who might one day walk its ruins. Then the vision shifts, and we see not just a life, but the moment of its end. A shadow falls over the city, and the people turn their faces skyward, watching as something dark and vast looms above. Fear spreads across their faces, and they begin to scatter, their movements frantic, disordered, a stark contrast to the unity they once shared. The sky grows dim, and a tremor shakes the ground. The world itself seems to buckle under some unseen force, crumbling and collapsing into ruin. We feel it, the loss, the despair, the anguish of those final moments, their dreams scattering like ash in the wind as the city fractures and fades, collapsing into dust and silence. And then, as swiftly as it came, the vision withdraws, leaving us alone once more in the empty hall, with only the jellyfish hovering beside us, their lights dimming, almost mournful. We open our eyes, the weight of that memory pressing down, filling us with a sense of vastness and sorrow. The jellyfish drift slowly toward the center of the hall, hovering over the circular pattern etched in the stone, as if marking it, preserving it, safeguarding this place's heart. They pulse gently, in a way that feels like farewell, and we realize that they too are bound to this place, to its memories and its long-lost people. They are the keepers of a legacy, a story that can only live in fragments, shared with those who come to bear witness. You reach out as if to touch one of them, and for a brief moment, the creature hovers close, allowing your hand to pass through its light, its form rippling around your fingers. It feels like touching a memory, both present and distant, there yet not there, a thing that can't be held, only experienced. The jellyfish slowly pull back, their forms dimming, fading into the edges of the hall, as though retreating into the city's fabric, becoming part of its shadows and silence once more. The pulse beneath us grows faint, the air stilling, returning to its quiet emptiness. We stand there, alone again, yet somehow connected, bound to this place, to the lives that once filled it, to the memory that now resides within us. And as we turn to leave, the weight of the ruins presses on us differently. It is no longer just a grave, but a monument, a testament to what was, to the life that pulsed through this world long before we arrived. The jellyfish drift away, their lights becoming tiny points in the vast expanse, leading us back through the empty corridors, the silent streets. We follow, carrying with us the echoes of the city, the fragments of its story, as we step out of the ruins and into the unknown beyond, the last witnesses of a world that was, and in some strange way, still is. As we step beyond the ruins, leaving the silent city and its spectral guardians behind, the world feels emptier, as if some fundamental part of it has been stripped away. The ash-laden plains stretch out before us, vast and grey, boundless beneath a sky that holds neither sun nor stars, only a dim and unchanging pallor. In the distance, shapes rise faintly from the horizon, half buried in dust, more remnants of the world that was, though smaller, more scattered. The jellyfish remain in the city's shadows, fading into its forgotten corners, their lights flickering one last time as we turn our backs. Their pulsing glow becomes a memory as soon as we leave the bounds of the last buildings, a fading point of warmth in a landscape otherwise cold and barren. We press forward, our footsteps slow and uncertain, though a quiet urgency pulls us onward. The vision we witnessed lingers heavily, each step echoing with the rhythm of that city's heartbeat, its memories sinking deeper into us. We walk in silence, letting the weight of it settle, each of us feeling it in our own way. A bond to a world we never knew, a kinship with lives we never lived. Eventually, we come across the remains of what might have once been a smaller settlement, half buried in ash, its edges worn smooth by time. The structures here are less elaborate, simpler, their forms eroded beyond recognition, leaving only the vaguest hints of what they might have been. We pick our way through the rubble, hoping perhaps to find something, a sign, a fragment, anything that might make sense of what's left. There, in the center of this quiet ruin, a peculiar structure stands. It's more intact than the rest, a circular formation of stones, their surfaces worn, but still marked with faint engravings. We approach it, drawn by something we can't name, some instinct that urges us to look closer. There's a stillness here, a feeling of purpose that seems to permeate the air, as though this place too has been waiting. You crouch, brushing dust away from the engravings, and the faint markings come into view. Symbols similar to those we saw in the city, spirals and patterns that loop inwards, guiding the eye to the center. There, carved deep into the stone, is a single, large symbol, a circle enclosing a smaller shape, almost like an eye. It stares up at us, unblinking, as if it, too, holds memories, secrets buried deep in the stone. We touch the symbol, tracing its lines with our fingertips, and a strange warmth rises beneath our hands. The ground feels alive, pulsing faintly, as if responding to our presence. There's a low hum that begins to fill the air, barely audible but unmistakable, vibrating through the stones, through the dust, resonating with the beat that lingers in our bones. We close our eyes, allowing ourselves to sink into the hum, letting it envelop us. Images begin to flicker in the darkness behind our closed eyes, but this time they are different, less vivid, more fragmented, as though the memories here are fading, weaker than those preserved in the heart of the city. Faces appear and dissolve, voices murmur in languages we cannot understand. But there is a sense of urgency, of something left unsaid, something these stones have been holding onto. Then the fragments shift, coalescing into a single image, faint yet distinct. We see two figures standing side by side in a vast open landscape much like this one, surrounded by ash and ruin. They are not us, but we feel a strange kinship with them, a recognition that defies words. They stand together, looking not at each other, but at something beyond the horizon, something neither of us can see. And then slowly they turn, their eyes meeting ours, as though looking through time, through memory, through whatever barrier separates us from them. The figures reach out, not toward each other, but toward us, their hands stretching across the gulf of time and space, bridging the chasm that separates our worlds. There is no fear in their faces, only a solemn understanding, a quiet acceptance of what has been lost and what remains. It feels like a blessing, a farewell, a passing of something old and sacred from one set of hands to another. When we open our eyes, the vision fades, the warmth of the stones dissipating, leaving only the cold, empty air. But something has shifted. The weight that pressed down on us feels lighter, less oppressive, as though we have taken something with us, a fragment of that blessing, an ember of the memory preserved in these stones. It is faint, barely more than a whisper, but it lives, a small light in the vast darkness of the world. We rise, leaving the circle of stones, feeling their silent gaze upon us as we turn to continue our journey. We move with purpose now, a quiet determination, our steps steady, even as the landscape stretches on, bleak and unending. The memory of the city, the vision of those who lived and loved within its walls, pulses within us, a steady rhythm that guides our steps, binding us to something larger, something that endures even in ruin. We walk into the unknown, carrying with us the last echoes of a world that might never return, yet remains, preserved in fragments, in memories, in us. And though we do not know where we are going, or what lies beyond the horizon, we feel as though we are not alone. We carry the heartbeat of the city, the lives it once sheltered, the light of the jellyfish that still drift within its shadows. We walk, and in the silence that follows, the world breathes with us, as though, in some strange, impossible way, it too remembers. The ash-laden plains stretch on, vast and empty, yet beneath the quiet monotony, something stirs. A sense of connection, a thread we feel winding between the dust and the silence. The hum from the stones, the faint pulse of the city's heartbeat, still lingers in us, guiding them through the barren landscape. We walk in silence, each step falling into a rhythm, as if the world itself is listening, waiting. Hours pass, or perhaps days. Time has become irrelevant in this place. The horizon remains unchanged, a pale line blurred by swirling dust. But gradually, we begin to notice subtle shifts in the terrain. The ground hardens, the layers of ash thinning, giving way to patches of brittle earth, cracked and uneven. Shapes emerge in the distance, dark shadows against the pale sky, hints of structure that draw us forward. As we approach, it becomes clear that we have stumbled upon another remnant of the world that was. These shapes are less like buildings, more like crude stone pillars, worn down to uneven stumps. They are scattered, forming loose circles and lines, as if arranged by some ancient hand, now long gone. The tallest among them rise barely to our waists, and their surfaces are marked with rough carvings, symbols almost lost to erosion. We pause, tracing our fingers over the carvings, feeling the texture of history etched into the stone. They are different from the symbols we saw in the city, rougher, simpler, yet unmistakably deliberate. There is a language here, a message we can't decipher, but we feel its presence, layered in the grooves and hollows. You kneel by one of the pillars, pressing your hand against its rough surface, and the faintest warmth blooms beneath your touch. The ground beneath us hums softly, as if acknowledging us, welcoming us into the memory of this place. It feels like an echo, weaker than before, but present, a remnant of whatever lives here, whatever has survived the silence. Suddenly, a movement catches our eyes. Beyond the pillars, drifting through the haze, we see them, more jellyfish, their translucent forms glowing faintly, smaller and dimmer than those within the city. They move sluggishly, their lights pulsing with a faint, almost exhausted rhythm, as if they too are nearing the end of their strength. These creatures are different, fainter, thinner, their forms stretched and fragmented, trailing wisps of light that break apart in the air like smoke. They hover around the stones, as if drawn by the remnants of whatever force lingers here, feeding on the faintest traces of memory. We watch them, their movements slow and hesitant, as if each pulse of light costs them more energy than they can spare. They drift closer, and one hovers directly in front of us, its glow soft, almost fragile. It seems to be watching us, studying us with a quiet intensity, and as it pulses, we feel something stirring within us, a sensation that isn't quite a memory, but feels like one, like a half-forgotten dream resurfacing. A flash fills our vision, a fire blazing against the darkness. People gathered around it, their faces illuminated by the flames, shadows dancing across their features. They are quiet, solemn, hands outstretched, as if in prayer or ritual, their voices rising in a low, steady chant. The words are indistinct, a murmur that slips through our grasp, but the feeling is clear, a farewell, a gathering of voices joined in loss, in remembrance. The image fades, leaving us breathless, and the jellyfish dims, its light flickering, as though the memory it shared has drained it. It drifts back, joining the others, its pulse weakening, fading into the haze. We stand in silence, the weight of the vision pressing down on us, filling the air with a heavy stillness. These creatures, we realize, are not merely wandering the remains of this world. They are bearers of its memories, carrying fragments of what was, searching for places to anchor them. And as we watch them, a sense of purpose rises within us. Perhaps in some way, we are like them, moving through this endless ruin, gathering memories, piecing together a story that has long since fallen into dust. With quiet reverence, we step beyond the pillars, leaving the jellyfish to their silent vigil. They linger, their dim lights fading as we move on, their forms disappearing into the swirling ash, like embers in the wind. But their presence remains with us, a reminder of the fragments we carry, of the lives we have glimpsed, preserved in moments that slip through time like sand. The landscape stretches on, empty and endless, yet we walk with renewed resolve, each step guided by a faint, intangible thread. The world around us is quiet, but within that silence, we feel something stirring. A story that has yet to be fully told. A purpose that is both ours and not ours, shared with the echoes of those who came before. Ahead, the horizon wavers, and for the first time, we see a change. faint glow far in the distance, faint but unmistakable, a point of light piercing the grey expanse. It is small, almost imperceptible, but it draws us forward like a beacon, a promise that something lies beyond this endless desolation. We walk side by side, each step bringing us closer to the light, carrying with us the memories, the fragments, the heartbeat of a world that once was. And though we do not know what awaits us, we feel, deep within, that we are not alone, that we are part of something greater, something that endures beyond ruin and silence, bound by a thread that connects us to the ashes, to the jellyfish, to the stories they carry. And as we move toward the light, we feel the weight of the world shift, the silence breaking, as though the earth itself is exhaling, releasing the last remnants of its breath into the stillness. We walk, and in the quiet, the world remembers with us, each step drawing us closer to whatever lies beyond the horizon, beyond the ashes, beyond the final memories of a fallen world. The light on the horizon grows steadily, a faint but persistent glow piercing through the thick, unyielding pall of grey. We walk toward it, the ash swirling around our ankles, every step stirring memories that seem to hover in the air before dissolving back into silence. The ground beneath us feels different now, firmer, as if we're leaving behind the most desolate parts of the world and stepping into something else, something that remembers what it was to be alive. The glow brightens as we draw closer, illuminating faint shapes in the distance, outlines blurred by the haze. They are tall, slender forms, arranged in rows that stretch into the horizon, like trees stripped of leaves or pillars marking a path through the wasteland. And as we approach, the glow resolves itself into something more complex, more alive than mere light. They are crystals, towering spires of translucent stone, each one faintly luminous, casting a gentle, shifting radiance across the barren ground. The light within them pulses softly, in rhythms both familiar and strange, creating a symphony of glows that ripple across their surfaces like waves. It is as if these spires are not merely objects, but beings in their own right, carrying a life, a memory that resonates through their course. We step between them, feeling their presence around us, each spire humming with a faint energy that thrums beneath our skin. They seem to respond to us, brightening as we pass, casting shadows that stretch and twist, drawing patterns across the ground. You reach out, pressing your hand against the nearest crystal, and it responds, its light flaring briefly, sending a gentle warmth up your arm. For a moment, a vision flickers in the depths of the crystal, faint and fragmented. Faces, movements, echoes of a life long gone. They are different from the visions the jellyfish shared, these crystals. They do not show the city, nor the rituals of the people who once filled it. Instead, they reveal images that are more elemental, more primal. Stretches of forest, rivers winding through fertile plains, mountains rising against a sky untouched by ruin. These are not memories of civilization, but of the world itself, as it once was before humanity shaped it. A world vibrant and alive, teeming with a life that needed no names, no structures to be whole. As we move deeper into the grove of crystals, the light around us intensifies, filling the air with a soft, resonant glow that touches everything, seeping into the ground, the stones, our very skin. It feels like a gentle reminder, an invitation to see beyond what we have known, to glimpse the world as it was, unbroken, whole. And then, in the heart of the grove, we see it, a single, enormous crystal, larger than the rest, towering high above us, its surface smooth and unblemished, as though untouched by time. Its light is stronger, more vivid, casting a warm golden glow that feels like sunlight, a light we have only imagined in stories and memories. It pulses with a slow, deep rhythm, steady and calm, like the heartbeat of the earth itself. We approach it, standing in its shadow, feeling its warmth radiate through the cold air. This crystal is different. It feels alive in a way that is both familiar and profoundly alien, as though it holds within it the essence of all that came before, the memory of the world in its entirety. You place your hand on its surface, and I follow, feeling the smoothness beneath our fingers, the steady, reassuring pulse that beats within it. And then, the world shifts. Our minds fill with images, vivid, overwhelming, a flood of memories that pour into us, leaving us breathless. We see the rise of forests, endless and green, teeming with creatures that move in harmony with the land. We see rivers carving paths through mountains, lakes forming under skies that shift with seasons, each one holding its own story, its own rhythm. We see the first sparks of fire, the first tools crafted by hands that learn to shape, to build, to dream. We see the city, young and alive, bursting with life, voices raised in song and laughter, streets filled with movement and purpose. And then we see its end, a slow, inevitable decline, a fading of light as the city's people disappear, leaving behind only their memories, their whispers etched into stone, into crystal, into the very bones of the earth. We feel the sorrow of that loss, a grief that resonates within us, not only for the people, but for the world itself, for the life that ebbed away, leaving only fragments and shadows. The crystal dims, and the visions fade, leaving us in a profound, aching silence. But within that silence, we feel something new, a sense of purpose, a calling that is both ancient and entirely our own. These crystals, this grove, they have held these memories, preserved them through time, waiting for someone to bear witness, to carry them forward into the vast unknown. We stand in the glow of the crystals, feeling their warmth seep into us, their light mingling with our own, binding us to this place, to the memories it holds. The last city, the jellyfish, the crystals, all of it is part of a larger story, one that has been waiting to be remembered, to be carried forward. And so we leave the grove, stepping back into the ash and the silence. But we are not the same. We carry within us the memory of the world as it was, the heartbeat of the earth, the pulse of life that endured through ruin and time. We walk onward, knowing that we are part of something vast, something timeless, that stretches beyond our lives, beyond the ruins, beyond even the memories. As we step away, the crystals behind us dim, their light fading back into the earth, as if content, at last, to rest. The path ahead is unknown, stretching into a horizon we cannot see, but we walk it with the quiet assurance that we are not alone, that the world's story and ours are bound together, entwined in a tapestry that will continue to unfold, even in the silence. And so we walk, carrying with us the fragments of a world that was, a world that in some way still is and always will be. The journey is endless, the path uncertain, but we step forward, guided by the light within, the memory of the last great city, of the jellyfish who kept its pulse, of the crystals who preserved its essence, knowing that we are part of something that can never truly fade. The silence deepens as we walk, but within it there is a fullness, a resonance, that hums beneath the surface, an echo of all we carry with us. The landscape stretches out, featureless and vast, yet we feel as though we are not wandering aimlessly. We are moving towards something, guided by the memory we now hold, by the threads that connect us to the world that was. As we travel, strange formations begin to rise out of the ash, a series of pillars, jagged and raw, as if the earth itself thrust them upward, marking the way. Each one is different. Some lean at precarious angles, others are broken, their tops shattered, and yet they form a path, leading us further from the grove of crystals and deeper into unknown territory. We pass each pillar, and with each step, we feel the weight of those ancient memories settle more fully within us, becoming part of us. The pulse from the crystals, the glow of the jellyfish, the quiet yet enduring heartbeat of the last city. All these things hum quietly inside, a chorus of whispers that guide us forward, reminding us of our purpose. The pillars grow taller, their surfaces covered in lines and grooves, markings that seem almost like writing, though they don't belong to any language we know. The symbols curve and twist, interlocking with one another, forming patterns that wind up each stone. They seem to shift when we look away, as though the meaning they hold is just beyond our reach, waiting to be understood when the time is right. At the base of one particularly large pillar, we stop. There is something etched here that catches our eye. A single symbol, larger than the rest, carved with care and precision. It resembles a spiral, coiling inward toward a central point, as if drawing everything in, binding all things together. The sight of it brings a sensation that we can only describe as a memory that isn't our own, a feeling of completeness, of a journey that cycles back to its beginning. You reach out and touch the symbol, tracing its curves, and as your fingers move, the air around us shifts, growing heavy with something almost like anticipation. A low rumble stirs beneath our feet, a vibration that feels ancient, grounded, as if the earth itself is waking to watch, to witness. The pillar trembles under your touch, and we step back, watching as the spiral glows faintly, casting a soft golden light that illuminates the surrounding ash. The light expands, rippling outward from the spiral, creating waves that pulse through the air, dispersing the dust and revealing something beneath the ash, a wide circular expanse of stone, smooth and dark, stretching out from the base of the pillar in all directions. It is a platform, crafted from the same stone as the city's heart, its surface unmarred by time. Symbols are carved into it, spiraling out from the center in intricate patterns that ripple and pulse with a faint, rhythmic glow. We step onto the platform, feeling the smooth stone beneath our feet, the cool, steady pulse that resonates up through our bodies. The platform thrums with energy, a quiet, contained power that feels alive, aware of our presence. It's as though this place too has been waiting, holding its breath for the arrival of those who could carry its story forward. In the center of the platform, another symbol gleams, a circle enclosing a series of interconnected lines and shapes, forming a pattern that is both simple and endlessly complex. It feels familiar, like the core of the world's story, the essence of all we have seen and remembered. We stand before it, and as we look, something stirs within us, a deep, ancient recognition that speaks to the very heart of who we are. You kneel, pressing your hand to the symbol, and I follow, feeling the cool stone beneath our palms. the warmth that rises from it seeping into our skin, filling us with a light that is both strange and deeply familiar. And then, without warning, the platform pulses, sending a wave of energy outward, rippling across the plain, stirring the ash, the dust, the silence. The air shimmers, and for a moment, the world blurs, bending around us, distorting as though pulled by unseen forces. And then, in that distortion, images emerge, not visions like before, but something more immersive, more real. We are surrounded by the world as it once was, not as fragments or glimpses, but as a living, breathing place. Trees rise around us, tall and strong, their leaves rustling in a breeze that we can feel against our skin. The sound of flowing water fills the air, mingling with voices, laughter, the hum of life in all its forms. And there, in the midst of this world, we see people, figures that look like echoes of ourselves, yet distinct, their faces filled with light and purpose. They move with a unity, a harmony that feels timeless, bound to each other and to the world they inhabit, as though they are as much a part of the land as the trees, the rivers, the sky. They see us and they nod, acknowledging us with a quiet reverence, as if they understand why we have come, as if they know what we carry within us. They reach out, hands extended, palms open, and we feel an invitation, a connection that transcends time and space. We reach back, and as our hands meet theirs, the world blurs again, fading back into the endless grey, the silent ash. But something remains, a warmth, a spark that lingers in our skin, a reminder of the connection we now share. The platform beneath us dims, its glow fading, but the warmth remains, a pulse that thrums within us, steady and sure. We stand, feeling the weight of all that has been, all that we now hold, bound together in a single unified memory. We are the bearers of this world's story, the keepers of its legacy, bound to carry it forward into the unknown. We step off the platform, leaving the pillar and its markings behind, feeling the faint pulse of its light dimming as we move away. The horizon stretches out before us, vast and empty, yet filled with possibility. The world may be quiet, the land barren, but we walk with the knowledge that we are not alone, that the memories we hold will live on, carried through us, preserved in every step we take. As we journey onward, the silence fills with a quiet hum, a rhythm that feels like the earth's own heartbeat, steady, eternal, resonating with the story that we now carry. And though the path ahead is unknown, we walk with the assurance that this story, this world, will endure, remembered in the fragments we hold, preserved in the lives that will follow. And so we continue, bound by the memory of the last city, the jellyfish, the crystals, the pillars, the faces in the ash. We walk carrying a light that will never fade, a story that will never end, woven into the fabric of all that is and all that will be, moving ever onward into the uncharted spaces of a world reborn.